Namaskar students. I, Miss Payal of ITL Public School, I welcome you all to the 5th class of Class 8, Chapter 3, Why Do We Need a Parliament? Now let's just recall what we had done in our previous class. We had talked about how we have the bicameral house, right? What is the bicameral mean? That we have two houses in the parliament, and which are the two houses that we had talked about? The Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. We had differentiated them on the basis of their members, their powers. Which is the most powerful house, by the way? Yes, so it's the Lok Sabha. And why do you think the Lok Sabha is the most powerful house? That's because, okay, you can say that it has a large number of members as compared to Rajya Sabha, but then there are some real powers apart from the number of members over there. What is it? It's that the Lok Sabha has the sole authority to initiate the money bill, right? So that money bill becomes very important because we are going to pass our budget accordingly, and that's why Lok Sabha has a lot of powers in its hand how to execute the entire decision making process with respect to making of the budget. Well, given so, we're going to now look upon today the role of the Indian Parliament. We had earlier talked about that Indian Parliament plays a very crucial role in the democracy. But today we have to actually think that exactly what is the point of having the Parliament into place, right? So number one point is that the first role that we're going to talk about in this case is that the role of the Parliament. You're all able to see over here? Yeah? Okay. So the first one is to select the national government. Okay. So to select the national government and to see which is the government, which is the party which is going to get the majority and is going to form the uh, main segment of our national government, that is one important criteria. For example, what happens after the Lok Sabha election? What happens after that? A list is being prepared, okay, where all the name of the MPs are given over there. And for a political party to form the government, they need to have the majority of the elected MPs. Now, whichsoever party will have the majority, they will form the national government. So it is happening according to the Lok Sabha elections, where all the citizens are voting, right? Okay. So what happens? What is the total number of Lok Sabha seats? Can we all recall? 543 plus 2 nominated members, right? So what would be at least half the number? For majority, you need at least 50% votes. And what is that 50% coming out to be? 272 members or more than that, right? So if you have 272 elected MPs who are elected from your party, then you would be getting the majority and forming the parliament, right? You will form the national government, sorry. And what about the other half of the people who are not able to win the election? They would be forming the opposition, right? And third criteria, what if no party is getting the majority? What would happen then? Then we would tend to have something which is called as the coalition government, right? Two or more parties, they are coming together to form a majority because none of them, they got the majority votes. Right. Now, given set, so this is how our first criteria is solved, right? That we are talking about how the government is formed and they are able to run the entire nation. Okay. Now, I'll come down to this one, to control, guide, and inform the government. So, our second role that we're going to talk about is to control, guide, and inform the government. Now, to do so, first we need to choose someone, okay? We have the legislative now, right? When the national government is elected, we have the legislative. That is the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, the houses are there. So we know who is forming the government and there are people who are going to make laws. But is just making of the laws in just the outcome of it? Imagine you are in your class and the teacher sets the rule of the classes, right? And if you can recall your activity also that we had given you, that you had to make a preamble for yourself, for your class. So you wrote down what are the values and the ethics you would like to have in all the class buddies of yours. But then just stating the facts is just enough. Is it so? No, right? We need to follow the rules also. Someone to come with a stick behind us and tell us that you have to do this, otherwise you're going to face a repercussion of it, right? Similarly, while making the laws, there is some one who's going to make the law and somebody who has to implement the law also, right? Just by thinking that the law is there so people will agree to it, no, that's not the way people actually do that. People only follow the rules and regulation only when it has been implemented by the government, right? Or there's an authority which is looking after it after its implementation. So here we're going to formulate the executive. Now what is the role of this executive? It is going to implement the laws which are being made by the legislative. The two houses, the legislative is there for us to make the laws. So the executive will actually execute the or implement the laws which are made by the parliament. Okay. Now, this executive consists of the president, the prime minister, and his council of ministers. Now, this prime minister plays a very crucial role. What did we call him as? Which kind of head? A nominal head or a real head? Which one? Yes, a real head. So when prime minister is the real head, he is actually the leader of the ruling party in Lok Sabha. Okay, I'm back here to Lok Sabha. So whosoever is the majority of the political parties, they're getting the majority votes in the Lok Sabha election, that party gets to make the national government, right? And whosoever is the leader of this national government, he will be formulating the taking the place of that of the prime minister, right? So whosoever is the ruling member, the leader of this ruling party is going to become the prime minister. For example, in the current scenario that we could see that which is the party which got the majority in the Lok Sabha election. If we look at India's case at the current moment in 2020 situation, it's the BJP party, right? The Bharatiya Janata Party. Okay. Now, when the BJP is getting the majority, there was a leader of this BJP group. Who was a leader? It was our current prime minister who was leading the entire BJP at that point of time. He was the head of the BJP, right? And so once his party got the majority in the Lok Sabha, they won the majority of the seats, they formulated the national government, and the head of that party, he became the prime minister. That is our prime minister, Narendra Modi ji. Clear with how the prime minister is formulating, right? And when his appointment is actually signed, it is done by the president. So the president, as we call him as a nominal head, he signs the appointment letter for the prime minister. Now, will the prime minister be able to function on his own? Do you think so? Now just compare to your school. Can the principal of the school take care of the entire school on her own? No, that's a little tough job, right? And here we're talking not only about a particular school, but a country, a whole country of so much population. It's a very difficult task for one person. So what would he need? He would need some expertise. And that is what he's going to get from his council of ministers. So he selects some ministers and he gives them some particular task. Okay. So the prime minister selects the council of minister. So this council of minister, they are given different areas of governance. For example, somebody would be made the health minister, somebody could be made as the education minister, somebody would be made as the finance minister. So in this particular way, there are various key areas of the governments which has to be taken care of. So prime minister would basically give these specific duties to his council of ministers. And whenever he has to take some decision making process, he would call all his council of minister and would tend to discuss, right? And then he would come at a decision of how to tackle an issue. Because sometimes what happens is that the views and thinking of the other people have a very positive impact on us, right? So we should take into considerations others' perspective also while making our policies. Great. So this is how we are going to control, guide, and inform the government. Apart from this, there is another thing that the parliament is very crucial for. When we are talking about prime minister and his council of ministers discussing, okay, but they are the executive, right? There has to be discussion in the legislative also, right? And how do we say that the power, there is no there is no taking up of the excessive power in the hands of the few ministers? How do we keep a check and balances on our division of power? That is through a point which is called as the question R. So I'll put it down for you. There's one important thing that you need to keep track of is question hour, right? And what is this question hour? It is a session in the parliament where we actually start asking the MPs to give exact information upon what they are working on. So we can, all the MPs who are there, they will ask the government or the concerned MPs, the leading MPs of that house, to give them the information about how, say, we have tackled our military, what all expenditures we have done, in which areas we have done some new innovation. So all these questions are put forward by the opposition party, right, to the majority party. So the majority party, all the ministers, they will have to answer their questions, and they'll have to prove that how they are actually working. Otherwise, what would it be? If nobody is asking you anything, you will do whatever you feel like doing, right? But that's not the case. So to keep the check of power and maintain the checks and balances, the system of checks and balances is maintained through the question hour in the parliament, right? And this plays a very crucial and a critical role in the healthy functioning of a democracy. Hope that's clear. Great. Now, given so, we're going to move to our third concept, or the third role of the parliament, which is lawmaking. And we have already discussed that how the lawmaking is done. The lawmaking is done through the way that the houses over here, we have the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, they are together, they are called as the legislative. Now the legislative has to make the laws. Where does it, when the bill has to be made, where does it go first? Lok Sabha, right? The lower house. Once it is approved from the lower house, then it goes to the Rajya Sabha, the upper house. When the Rajya Sabha gives a thumbs up on this, then everybody has given their consent that this should become a law. What happens to that bill? It would then go to the president for the final signing. But hey, if the president says no, it's not, according to our, he doesn't agree to the facts, or he doesn't agree to this law, what would it happen? He would, if he rejects the bill, he will actually send it back to the legislative again, and again a system of debate and discussion would be held, and then the bill will be passed on to the president again. But if for the second time the same bill is coming to the president, then he cannot deny it, right? Because he is also assured of the fact that the proper discussion and debate has been held in the parliament, and then he would give his consent on it. So I hope now you're able to understand that why actually are we studying about the Indian Parliament. That's because it plays a very crucial role in the democracy. And how is it so? Because it is going to elect the national government through citizens' participation. Number two, it helps us to control, guide, and inform the government about the things which are happening, policies that are being undertaken, right? And thirdly, it helps us in the lawmaking. So I hope this topic was clear to you, and I hope to see you again in the next class. Thank you all.